attendance, the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And today presented for those who are not present at the Muslim Montgomery will be Saleem herself, and we'll be talking about the abundance of blessings that we receive in our Islam. Go ahead, before we proceed, go ahead and open up here, like always, as believers do. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli wa salim wa barik adika wa rasulika Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajameen. And that's translated, dear brothers. O Allah, let your prayer and your peace and your blessing be upon your servant and upon your messenger Muhammad and upon his family and all his companions. Ameen. Amen. God. Once again, I greet you. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Those who are listening remotely, go ahead and make sure you mute yourself so we won't have no interference, and we can go ahead and proceed with today's Ta'aleem. And today's Ta'aleem is going to be centered around the virtue of Surah Al-Kauthar in Islam. And we all know that means abundance. Everyone is trying to in abundance. And it was reported by Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said, while I was walking in paradise, I came across a river whose banks were made of hollow pearls. And I asked Jibril, what is this, O Jibril? The angel replied, this is Al-Kauthar, which is the Lord had given you. Its scent was sweeter than the musk, and its taste purer than honey. Its scent was sweeter than musk. So when we think about that, please mute yourself. When you think about that, and I think the imam he was talking about, in his khutbah this weekend, faith and how sweet it can be. And how many different narrations and different correlations we have throughout the Quran and the Sunnah about just when Allah used sweetness, used taste. And what you think about that it triggers your senses. When something's bad, you can tell. When something's sweet, you can tell. So even it's purer than honey. And I know all y'all, I love honey. I eat honey just about every day on my little muffin biscuit, and ground honey. So I can't even imagine something that's every day. That's just a routine. I can only imagine that. But you can only imagine what type of joy that was when the angel Jibril said that to the Prophet Muhammad, that what can conclude from the virtue of this particular surah in highlighting such significant greatness. And for many of us, when you think about it, you come into the fold, we were talking about this morning, coming into the fold, I can recall myself personally, when you come into the fold of Islam, first thing we try to do, we try to learn and memorize Surah Al-Fatiha, because we know it's very often repeated. And in order to perfect our salat, that you got to learn how to recite that in Arabic. But then I thought about it, this particular surah that we're talking about, that was the next surah in line with me. Anybody want to guess, this Ta'aleem, you want to guess why that was the next surah that Imam Abdul Sabri sat down on this floor, or in the other masjid, going over with me until I got it right? Which one is it? You want to know the reason why? That one right there was Surah Al-Kauthar, was the next one on my list to learn. Anybody want to take a guess?
One of the shortest.
Yeah, it's one of the shortest. Let's be real now. It's one of the shortest. It was the easiest. How many ayats class does it have? Three. Alhamdulillah. And it's like you said, it was one of the most often repeated surah because, like I said, it was easy, but it also became a part of our salat's infrastructure. If you didn't know but one or two ayat, that's one of them you need to go ahead and learn right quick so you performing your salat correctly. This surah was revealed in Mecca in one of the times of the early days when the Prophet started receiving revelation. And like I said, or like the brother said on the floor, is the shortest surah in the Quran, in which it affirms the abundance and prosperity of Allah bestowed upon his measure and the sovereignty over the hearts of humanity. So when you think about abundance, you're like, what is that abundance he's referring to? And recently, we went to Brother Janazza here, may Allah forgive me, sin grant paradise, and I was talking to a believer at his grave site, and we were sitting there and just observing how, painful it was for his family members, his siblings and sisters and everything to grieve so hard when you lose someone. And when I was doing my research for this particular surah, this revelation, this surah came at a time when the Prophet Muhammad was going through tremendous grief. Anybody can recall?
Was it when he lost his son?
Alhamdulillah. See that? When he lost both his sons. Both of his sons. He was in tremendous grief. And this surah, please mute yourself, was came, and I go and say, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Inna a'tayna Al-Kauthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shaniyaka huwa abtar. And real short. And the problem, you think about it, you just don't know. I can't even imagine. I had not lost a sibling yet. I had not buried a son, let alone two. Can you imagine what was going through the Prophet Muhammad's heart at that time, and the grief that he was going through? Just think about that for a second. And in the first ayat, it say, indeed, we have granted you Al-Kauthar, an abundance and goodness. That revelation say, we have granted you. That's been telling to the Prophet Muhammad why he was grieving. And this refers to the abundance of goodness and the great virtue that was bestowed upon the Prophet and for his future generation. But it also, in this Saleem, you understand that Al-Kauthar is also the river, one of the name of the river in paradise. And that river, it was so blessed. That's where the sweetest, it's honey and musk and everything, and that the shores was lined with pearls. That river was there, is specifically there for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from my reading, it was as far as a month's journey in length and a month's journey in width. So you can't even imagine. And during that time, modes of transportation, I'm quite sure it was camel about the fastest mode of transportation. So you think you're on camelback for about a month. That's how wide and long it was. But today's time, how we can go a long distance with the tools and blessings we have now in a month's travel time. So that just goes to show just how abundant this particular river was. And then the second ayah, it said, so pray to your Lord in sincerity in all your prayers and offer sacrifice to him. Right then, Allah, he's going back and re-emphasizes what I just opened up with, how important it is to master and learn your salat. He said, be sincere in your salat. And by us coming here lately, and I see the leadership, I see some of the elder brothers, we slowing our salat down. We contemplating. We want to make sure we don't miss a beat. Beats are the blessings. Because you rush through them, you're going to miss something. And the chances are greater that you can make an error. And you slow down. And then offer sacrifices to him. In this particular ayat, I saw a lot of tafsir. It talked about offering sacrifices during Ramadan, doing charitable deeds, all that. So Allah telling the Prophet that we have already granted you in abundance. And it's not in future tense. It's not like right now. Allah said we have granted. What tense-ship is that for some of us educated people in this Saleem? What granted? What that mean in tense-ship in English? The grammar tense-ship. What that means? Past tense. So it's already what? Has been what? Already done. It's already done. So when you look at it and when you read in the Arabic, yeah, it's in past tense. It's shift to past tense. When you really become a student of the language, you say, okay, this past tense. So this Allah is telling you, the angel is telling you, it's already done. Don't worry. And he's still grieving. He's still grieving. And said, in the last ayat, which was very profound. This right here just give the believers, should give everybody the strength. Indeed, your enemy is the one cut off. Indeed, your enemy. And this means those who belittled and hated you because of what you brought to Islam, your revelation. You think about the problem. Not only he lost 2 sons, he still was saying what? La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And he was still being persecuted and still just lost 2 sons. So their actions and their descendants in this particular ayat will be cut off. And they will be derived of any lasting impact of remembrance. Just think about what you think that meant and what you see today as it records, as it relates to this religion. You think now Islam was very new at that time. Now it was just coming, just getting groundwork so it can get traction. So what you think moving 1500 years forward, what you think that particular outlet is saying to today's believer? I just open up the floor.
I would say that it should give us hope that when we find ourselves facing situations that could trigger hopelessness within us, that we should have faith that Allah, as long as we hold on to the things that Allah has ordered us to do, then we'll find ourselves getting even if it's just an ounce of what the prophet got. Hey, we in good company, because we'll be amongst those that drink from that river too.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Anybody else want to add? Anybody out there listening virtually? You can chime in.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
No, I would say that like during the time of the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, like when he lost his 2 sons, like the people of the Christ, they would like make fun of him, like because of him losing his 2 sons. And I think that you can use that in today's time. Like you may be dealing at work or something like that, and people may say something out the way that you just don't find so amusing, but it's just like at the same time Allah already cut them off because they're showing you their character, so you don't have to deal with them as such.
Alhamdulillah. That was an excellent observation. Great point. And another reason for this particular revelation or ayat, and it was according to some reports regarding this subject, there was an agreement that this subject was revealed because the prophet was called Al-Kauthar, a man who with no linkage, no sons, by some of his enemies who abhorred him due to his faith. So when you think about that and how important sons were and are in certain cultures, they're important. Daughters and sons, they all important. Don't take it out of context now. But back then, it elevated the family if you had a whole linkage of sons. And the reason for that is because your legacy, your inheritance, your wealth will stay within the family. So traditionally, usually the daughter will go and move and assume into her husband's family. But the family legacy and wealth, they got sons and things, it stays with the family. And then if you look at, typical family law now, it's almost saying the same thing, but now they tweaking and amend it because they got so many other little innovations in it. Because you ain't ready to tell what's a man, what's a woman now. So they got to sort of like try to split it down the middle and try to be fair to everybody. That's just the truth. I mean, when you look at law, that's exactly what it is. But with that being said, when I looked at it even into it in a further by him being called Al-Kauthar, and he's that the teasing and the taunting and all that was so excessive. Some scholars took it and even went into more detail in explaining, yes, it was, I'm quite sure, a burden and a hot shift for me, but we all know that the prophet is the seal of all prophets, right? And some even argued and presented the argument that if he did leave a linkages, that the heirs and the kinghood and all that, because his son they will assume his son should automatically would become prophethood. So sometimes Allah does things sometimes when we don't have no reason and no understanding, no knowledge why it even happened. It was some scholars that actually. So can you imagine you had two sons? You know it happened to a lot of bloodlines. They got sons and they go to war, and people started idolizing and worshiping them. So the seal of the prophet, that was it. Even though he had beautiful, strong daughters, and his lineage and his family grew. It grew. It didn't stop. It didn't stop by no means. How many of them questions, Tyler? How many Muslims we got now today?
Almost 2 billion.
Okay. Say that again, Brother Gustavo.
Yeah, about 2 billion.
About 2 billion. So do you think he was a man of Al-Kauthar? A man that have no linkage? Just look at that. And if it was, it'll stop just then. Some people do leave this earth without any linkage, without anything going on. But we all what? One race. We all human from humanity. So you can't sit there and say just because this brother or sister died, there's nothing going on behind him. Yes, it is. It is. So let me move on in class. You know, you get talking to Arlene and you sort of get ahead of yourself. I already talked about all my little previews. And here's some prevalent views that we should know. That the most common view is that Al-Kauthar is the name of the river in paradise, like we just talked about it. This has also been authenticated in reports by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that Al-Kauthar is a river which the Lord has granted me in paradise. Me. See, when he was grieving, he understood when the angel Gabriel sat down and revealed that to him while he was grieving. He understood it. In some ports, Al-Kauthar is a pool of abundance of good. It's not looked at as a river. It could be a pool of abundance of good. You know how some people say, you know, everything a person touches turn to gold. So sometimes even in the midst of your sorrow and your grief, there's some good in it. That's why I was talking at this morning prayer. I was reading, so I was getting this thing like, you know, I was thinking about the Prophet how much grief he was going through, but then look at the ease at the end of it. Look at the ease and how beautiful this deen in the way life has manifested itself. I mean, when you really think about it, how it started and where it's at today, it only has to be from Allah. And it has been constantly, throughout the 1400 years, been persecuted. It ain't just been doing the prophets all the time. It's going on right now as we speak. But Allah has already said he will what? Cut off what? Like you were saying. He will cut off your enemies. That falsehood himself would perish. He tells you that throughout the Quran, falsehood would perish. So we have to really and truly believe that, dear brothers and sisters. And we talked about Mustafa Answer, of course, I had in the Thailand, how many Muslims are there today? You must be reading under there. Break Islam. Please mute yourself. Okay. Alrighty. And we talk about, remember that Arabic word, look it up on your own. Abtar, A-B-T-A-R, Abtar. You can look it up and you can see what the meaning it is and how they use that means about cutting off.
How you doing?
Some leg and make sure you mute yourselves. Please mute your mics. Thank you. Unless you got something you want to interject in today's Talim, that'll be fine. And in surah, also throughout the other surah, there's other ayahs and throughout the surah that sort of reinforce this about the favor of Allah on you. And it's in Surah Ibrahim, ayat 7, 14:7. And Allah said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And remember your Lord caused to be declared publicly. That's in parentheses. If ye are grateful, I will add more favors unto you. But if you show any ingratitude, truly my punishment is terrible indeed. So you think about that. So by having this understanding of what we focus on in Surah Al-Kauthar and what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was going through, we have to, in the midst of grief, we have to be grateful sometimes for even the grief we're going through. We have to be grateful for it. Because if you are not, then sometimes the punishment can be worse than all tears you're sharing. When we sit down and really think about the many blessings that Allah has bestowed upon you, if you practicing and living this deen, you'll run out of ink. There won't be enough oceans to refill it. So we have to understand that in being grateful, like he was saying, and he told the Prophet in them 3 ayahs, what? Salat, perfect your salat, and what? Do good deeds. Do more charitable good deeds. Keep praying and do good deeds. You can't go wrong. Believe in Allah, His message. Make your salat and do good. And that's the work. Those are the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, patient.
And be patient. Because sometimes it ain't going to happen right then. It ain't going to come through. And when you said that, Imam Abdul Sabri, I'm thinking about the new masjid we're building. We got to be patient. For all the fruits and labor we're doing in sadaqah and in pledges, we have to be still patient. Because if you don't be patient, you become ungrateful. Then you can't
give up.
There you go. At the end, that you give up. There's no blessings in that giving up. So we have to understand that. And the Prophet, he lost 2 sons. I'm not going to speak. I can only imagine what his heart was saying. Like, man, what kind of punishment this is? And I've known some people give up as soon as the wind shift. As soon as it started to rain a little bit. As soon as there's a little turbulence, they gone. Throw in the towel. Look at these prize fighters. The ones who usually win are usually the ones who don't give up. Because you won't get hit. You step in that ring. It's going to require you to lose some sleep to come here for Fajr in the morning. Am I right, brothers and sisters?
Right.
You're going to have to make some sacrifice in order to what? Receive the blessings. That's when it feels good. That's the reward of Allah. In brief, what I have defined until this point is as follows. Because we granted you the Al-Kauthar. You pray to Allah in gratitude for His favor without any impiety, without any doubt. So what we have to do is, if you are devoutly worship Allah with piety and unification, and remember the blessings, the many blessings performed, and by performing good deeds, there is no likelihood of Allah ceasing His favors upon us. It's not going to happen. You keep doing the good, and I heard it in all y'all just by here. If you do the good, what's your reward, class?
Good.
Yeah. Do something bad and see what your reward going to be. So it's real simple. It's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do good. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do good. Let me move on down to my closing interview. While I'm scrolling down to get caught up, there's any comments anybody like to add today's Saleem about Al-Kauthar? This is Saleem. If there's anything that you can think about this particular short surah you'd like to add and help educate and uplift the community, please do so. Assalamu alaikum. Great Islam. Go ahead, brother Mustafa.
Yes. I noticed. I don't know if this is a tradition or not, but I think it would be helpful at a janazah that we sort of like have some information that is passed out or talked about, when someone has passed, just to line up and do the prayer itself, because I noticed that, recently, and that was at the brother funeral recently, there was nothing said, there was no obituary or none of those things. And I noticed that, prior to that, there was some, and, just to, have an idea about this brother. Because you were talking about past situations, right? Allah was trying to remind the Prophet of his past, situations, And I know that, we can't write all of that on a piece of paper or document, but just to have some knowledge of how the brother came from this point to that point, and then eventually Allah, took his life. And another thing too, concerning, the sweetness of paradise. We notice that, children, especially when they're young, and we are too right now, how we respond to sweet things. Some scientists have even said that, you're going to need some type of sugar, some type of sweetness for your brains to actually function properly, right? Wow. And I know that sadly, a lot of us, we tend to overindulge, and we get, maybe diabetes or something like that. But still, you're not limited or restricted once you get that. So all these things are, sort of like correlated. And maybe someone can say, is this a non-tradition thing in regards to information being given out concerning a person who have died, when we have our janazah. So, assalamu alaikum.
I'm gonna go ahead and because you and I was talking about that, brother, Mustafa. And I know that I've been to some janazah that Imam Abdul Sabri did. They have actually printed. We got some flyers that gives like a brief overview of Al-Islam and what's going on. We hand that out to the family so they don't be disconnected.
Right.
And then I've been to some that, depending on what the family wishes are, if they want to pass out a little some information that particular brother, sister, obituary or whatever they want to do. We don't try to get involved because they have a large portion of Christian families, and we'll try to disrespect. We won't let the pictures and all that stuff be up front. But if that's something they want to have out when people leave and give to people, that's all just courtesy. I think so. It all depends, on the family. But I know I've seen it, and I mentioned to you, these are the conversations that you need to have with your family while you're here. Don't let them have to find out or don't have to know what to ask the right question. Like I said before, I was in a class and my instructor told us to write out how we want our funeral to be done. And I was like, wow. And he said, Brother Saleem, I know yours going to be interesting. And I never thought about it, but it was so profound. And then I did great work on how I want it done. And I gave it to him. I went up there and said, here go my paper, sir. He said, I'm not going to read it. He said, I'm going to give you an A. I said, why? He said, now this is what I want you to do. Go home and put it on your bookshelf for your family. They the one that's going to write your legacy, not me. So we have to, and the point is, make sure your families know. We our family don't like to talk about death, but it's a reality. They don't like to talk about finances. It's a reality. They just very go in debt. Nobody don't you don't need to spend all that money you get on. Nobody don't want to have those conversations. So those are the tough conversations that the believers we have to have. And it's like you said, I don't think it's no ritual or some set thing in stone. Because we're going to do our 4 rock, takbirs and that's it, But as for the family, just out of respect, I've seen him do it and things like that just for the family, I think as they grieve it, and going through that transitional phase about that. So,
and another thing too, how are we able to learn?
Hold on, we got. Ready, Islam? Go ahead, sister.
Yes, in correlation to what the talk is about today, about the prophet being told, keeping us about the upon about to turn to Allah, to you have been granted the count of abundance, and and when you said that the favors that Allah has bestowed upon us, the oceans will run out of ink if we do it. And so I was reading this morning about Jannah, I guess hell, and the 7 gates of hell, and even in that, Allah is still granting us blessings because there are seven levels of hell, and so for Muslims, we are told that if we will be there for a time appointed, there's not an everlasting place for us, and also that there are different levels of hell. So Allah is always giving us an opportunity to do better. So He's always blessing us, even if with that, with the explanation of hell, Allah is showing us that levels of hell. So what we're trying for is to go together. But Allah is just not love. But I didn't get it.
Okay. We got someone not muted there, but I think your point was well taken. Even while we in the grave when we die, there's still, you got two angels that's going to come down and they're going to question you about the good and the evil you've done. Yeah, so, okay. So, but we got someone talking, but...
You call me a talking is alright.
Okay. All right. They talking. But we go ahead. You got any more comments here? But that's you were getting ready to say some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to how we are informed about the prophet. I heard that the prophet had mentioned that try not to write too many things about him. But yet, his companions was such a trustworthy group that they wrote things, about him, his life, what he did, and everything. In particular, his wife, Aisha. So you're looking at information being put down, So how are we to learn, the things that we are learning now, concerning even making prayer and, all these particular things here, right? Because the Quran itself is not necessarily, specific in detail about those things. So that's why I was saying the information that is passed on about, someone's life and stuff like that is significant and also could be an example, for us, So alhamdulillah.
I agree with what Brother Mustafa said. I believe it'd be a good practice. Unfortunately, not just here in Montgomery, but in other cities, some they see, that is an innovation. So they're like, nah, we ain't doing that and things like that. So, but I think for us as a community, I think it's a good conversation for us to, and like you said, going back to the family too, because ultimately it's for the family to decide. Some families, even amongst the community, in this community, they feel like, hey, I don't want to do that, and that's okay. But I think just making it known that that is a means of acceptance, so people can know about this person. And like the handouts that my father used to have, I think that's good for not only the Muslims, but also for those that are not Muslims, so they know what's going on.
We'll do that. We'll make sure you do that.
Oh yeah.
Y'all please do that, man. Okay. That means we have to agree. Go and make it final, Because that was so beautiful about this way of life. It's not going to put you in no box. As long as you stay on, you making your salat, you continue to do good deeds, you believe in the Quran, you reading it as much as you can comprehend, and you always believe in his prophet.
Last thing,
go ahead.
Close out. Nothing that we do in Islam should seem like a mystery.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, so I just want to end on
and
that.
there's probably some out there we can do more digging and find out. Maybe we'll have a Taleen on it. Okay, we'll go ahead for the sake of time. For those there's no more comments and suggestions, we'll go ahead and close out. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ramana antina fi dunya hasanatan wa fi akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban. That's translated. Our Lord, give us good in this life and give us good in the hereafter and protect us from the hellfire. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.